A number of people asked me to comment on North Carolina's recent anti-same-sex marriage bill. I wasn't all that surprised or dismayed by the bill passing. In the first place, you have to realize that nationwide gay rights groups pretty much abandoned the fight in North Carolina as a lost cause. They knew they couldn't win it, and felt that the money could be better spent elsewhere in this fight at this moment. Which leads you to why you got this anti-equal rights popular vote passing by over a 60% majority. The supporters of Amendment 1 had a green light on putting out all the unopposed propaganda they wanted to when it came to this anti-equality legislation, with almost no message opposing it. So, big surprise, it passed with room to spare. Why did equal rights groups choose to abandon the fight in North Carolina? Because North Carolina already has legislation on the books that prevents same-sex marriage. So even if equal rights groups had fought and won against Amendment 1, nothing would have changed. Same-sex marriage would still have been illegal in North Carolina. Amendment 1 is really just a bunch of frustrated bigots going, hey, we're proud bigots, and no one is really paying attention to just how awesome we are at being bigots. It's like no one cares that North Carolina goes out of its way to show just how bass-ackwards a state we can be. We could put through some legislation outlawing electricity, because electricity isn't mentioned in the Bible, so it's obviously of the devil, but then we wouldn't be able to force women to get all those unnecessary invasive transvaginal ultrasounds. I know. Let's pass another anti-same-sex marriage law. In fact, you have to wonder if North Carolina is about to start a new tradition of passing anti-same-sex marriage law every year just to celebrate their peculiar brand of bigotry-based Christianity. Next year we'll get Amendment 2, the following year Amendment 3, and in 2015 we'll get Amendment 4, and so on and so on and so on. Year after year, North Carolina will pass anti-same-sex marriage laws just to prove how much they really hate the idea of gay people existing in their state, and show everyone this isn't just North Carolina being bigot curious, they're committed to the bigot lifestyle. There's really no reason to have multiple laws banning same-sex marriage, now is there? And yet, North Carolina is passing multiple anti-same-sex marriage laws, which puts the lie to this being about protecting marriage, and shows it for what it is. A childish, petulant response to the fact that the world is changing around them and they don't want to be a part of it. Let's face it, this is really just the last desperate, dying gasp of anti-gay bigotry in American politics. I know some of the Europeans are mystified at the idea that a country whose laws are based on the principle that all men are created equal can have laws like Amendment 1 in existence on the books that clearly violate that principle. But you have to understand, generally, how our system works is you get a backward state like North Carolina passing something like Amendment 1. Once the fundy bigots are done celebrating and everyone else is done being offended, there begins a long, tiresome process in which the legislation has to make its way through multiple levels of our legal system until it finally reaches the Supreme Court, who pass a final decision on whether the law is valid. And that process can take years. And yes, judicial activism and popular opinion do play a role in that decision. It shouldn't, but it does. So sometimes these laws are left standing for decades before someone on the United States Supreme Court dies or steps down and the power on the bench shifts. And that's how laws that are in violation of the Constitution end up sitting on the books for years. So the anti-gay bigots in America, their days are numbered. Anyone who doesn't believe me, just look at how Obama finally came out and made an official statement in support of marriage equality. Obama has shown that he's an incredibly conservative politician when it comes to controversial political stances. By conservative, I mean he never goes for the royal flush. He'll always draw for the three of a kind. He would not make such an open statement in support of something unless he saw that it would be a safe, politically advantageous move for his career in policy crafting. President Obama is not a risk taker. He staked his claim in the ground on this issue because he sees that the bigots are pretty much done, and you may not like him, but you have to admit he's got a good eye for this sort of thing. So at this point, all you can do is ride the political crazy train while it plays out and do your best to help minimize the damage these politically active evangelical Christian groups are doing to the American citizenry in these unfortunate states. So I'm going to put some links to support groups for LGBT people in some of these states in the underbar down below, and I'm going to ask everyone to either mention such support groups in the comments section or send me the link for me to put it in the underbar. Let's all help do our part to ease the transition for states like North Carolina from an anti-equality society to a proud member state of a country that supports life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness equally for all. This is the True Pooka coming to you from Hell's Kitchen in the marriage equal state of New York, and if you find these words upsetting,